Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Ben. Thank you guys again.
You're talking about the questions in that email? You want me to start this off?
Yes. And maybe you can, I mean, it can just start with just like, why don't you guys just let us know about your program? And then you can use the questions as like a filler for anything maybe that they didn't mention or didn't already answer on their own through natural conversation or presenting.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, thank you for joining us. Would you mind by starting just telling us a little bit about your project and name of the project and what you did?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't have the questions. So the project that we're discussing is specifically the most recent food security backpack assembly. Is that correct? Thank you. I just wanted to make sure it was the right question.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, just tell us about that backpack program and what you did and what you called it.
Well, we actually had the idea for our recent weekend food backpack assembly project come to us through the work of the Fremont Area COVID Task Force. We've been working with area nonprofits, organizations, businesses over the previous year. I'm sorry, guys, hang on a second. I have some background activity I need to address. My apologies. Bear with me.
It's the world we live in.
It is the world we live in.
Yes.
I'm not promising I won't have that as well. So.
Same. All right.
This is why we were so we decided it's more work up front to pre-record everything, but man, it's gonna be so nice the week of.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Now hopefully the dog won't enter the stream. This is just lovely. Okay, we'll try that again.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, go ahead. Whenever you're ready, just give us an overview about the project and what it was and what people should know about it.
The Weekend Food Backpack Assembly Initiative that we undertook recently really came about through dialogue around the table at our Fremont Area COVID Task Force meeting. We have a number of community partners that participate in that task force, and including schools, and in particular our Fremont Public School District. And we learned through conversation about where COVID needs were emerging that the supply of weekend food that would typically be sent home with Fremont Public School District students who are on the free and reduced lunch program, for example, was meeting really only about half the need that the school district was aware was there. And so this was not because there wasn't plenty of need. It was because the food resources were limited, what they could get their hands on. So we as a task force asked what we could do to perhaps try to address that gap. And through that emerged this notion of reaching out to area businesses and organizations to help us find food to fill what ended up being 7,000 units of food. That was to 6,500 of units were distributed through our Fremont Public Schools District, going home with kiddos on Friday afternoons every week between Christmas really and the end of the semester. And beyond that, we had other food insecurity needs at our Fremont High School, as well as opportunities to support families being dismissed from our Methodist Fremont Health facility following an inpatient stay for COVID. And so we were able to kind of piece together several different food security initiatives into one event. And within literally days, we had the event underway and successfully executed. So that was pretty much it. It was what we call our Christmas miracle.
That's great. That's great. And so it sounds like that effort kind of fit into your already existing backpack program pretty well. Were there other activities that you tried or that you considered that maybe trying to address the food security issue in other ways, but you just decided, you know what, that didn't work for us?
Well, Go ahead, Tara.
So, you know, our food pantry, our local food pantry, which is part of the organization that I serve, when COVID began, we really started seeing many families. I think the number is well over 200 families accessing the food pantry that had never accessed services in the past. So we saw pretty quickly that food insecurity was a big need in our community. And like Melissa said, you know, with the schools, you know, some of the schools didn't have the resources to provide the backpacks because their schools historically didn't have that need. So we really just came together on the task force, like Melissa said, with it being a Christmas miracle, because everything just kind of fell into place for us. The first challenge we faced was how are we going to get all of this food, because this is a lot of units of food. And in the spring, we had a little bit of a challenge finding food for our summer backpack program, because we actually we've done this twice now, actually. Back in the summer when kids were out of school during, when COVID first hit, we first kind of started talking about how we're going to make sure kids that are having school from home, how do we make sure that they're getting food? So that kind of started the process. And I think we learned a lot on that first go around. So, the second go around, we had the challenge of finding the available food, finding grocers that could order for us in such huge quantity, and then the funding as well. So the pricing was just, had increased compared to what in the past we've used in our community for summer backpacks. We were fortunate that our community had a response and recovery grant, and there was some funding in there that wasn't used for what it was originally intended for. There wasn't that need. So we were able to reallocate those funds over and purchase the bulk of the food. I think we were a little short, about $3,000 short, but we had other community partners that came in and helped. The Nebraska Children Family Foundation and the Community Foundation here in Fremont. So we were able to purchase the food. So that was really our first challenge that we were able to overcome. And then it was, how are we going to package all of this food in a timely, safe manner? So I'll let Melissa and Christy go from there.
Great. That's great. Thank you. And so you mentioned, I think Melissa mentioned you had like 7,000 units of food packaged and distributed in this event, which is just fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about who these folks were? Tell us about the families that have benefited, and how you maybe involved them in the planning or implementation process.
So I think one of the things that's crucial to the process is the involvement of Fremont Public School and the individuals at the school that could help facilitate the distribution of the bags each Friday so that they can go home. The school historically did this, but as Melissa said, during this time of COVID, they did not have enough bags to give out. And the way to really understand that, my kids go to Fremont Public School, and they talk about on Friday afternoon, they announce over the loudspeaker backpack program. And so the kids literally take their backpacks from their little chairs and set it out in the hallway. And then the principal goes around and puts a bag of food into that backpack so that they can take it home. And I have experience walking into the school building, and somebody walking in front of me stopped at the front desk and said, will you make sure that my kids have those backpack food this weekend? And so it's always been something that was done, but the principals communicated to Melissa and to the food security group that there wasn't enough. And so I like to put myself in the shoes of that principal and just imagine more backpacks sitting out than what you have for food to put into them. And so that's part of the problem and the challenge. And then the communication to our group to say, we're not going to let that continue in our community. And so that started the work. There is also history of working together as a community to do food security efforts around making sure that food goes home on the weekend. And we, the food that went out before this effort came from one source. And so we did reach out to that source to see if that was an option, but it wasn't. The way that that process worked, it was particular to certain data points around the school, and that was the limited amount that the school could receive from that source. And so that's why we had to come up with a new way to make sure that the food was there. And so that's where Tara started to say, you know, where the effort began, and then the effort of identifying how we could get the food, where we could package it, and how we could package it safely, with recognizing the challenges of COVID, and then making sure each part of the process, the school's involved, that they can store that food and distribute that food. And so it just took a lot of team players, including all the volunteers who signed up, including things like the trash that was created, the transportation of the pallets, the pallet, you know, I think I learned and others did how to work a pallet jack, how to, you know, just all of those pieces along the way, I guess. And there were so many who came on board to help with each part of that.
I would have to say that it's been another experience in how it really does take a village in many ways to make a real difference. We saw that in spades with this initiative, as we really have since we started not just our COVID task force work, but also last year, flood relief and recovery. We had well over 200 volunteers who came together in shifts to assemble the backpacks. We had the space for the assembly provided free of charge by our local mall management company, which was a wonderful space that allowed for all kinds of good, safe social distancing. So that was, of course, a priority, how to do this in a safe manner. We had our refuse taken care of for us by a local trash company free of charge. We had boxes that these food totes would be placed in, custom made for us free of charge by a local box company. You know, and then we got our food supplies from Hy-Vee Food Store, and they provided it at almost cost for us, and we're able to get it all ordered and delivered within days. Enough food to meet that gap in that student population from now until the end of the school year. So it's really been just tremendous support for the effort. I think strong understanding of the need, and just a desire to play a role in what's really an important community initiative.
In addition, to add to what Melissa said, we did also discover that at the high school, there was also some food insecurity needs at the high school as well. So the additional 500 backpacks that we were able to fill, some are going to the hub at the middle school and to the high school. They're kind of 3-day, I would say, if I had to describe them, 3-day heat and serve type meals that can be, you know, they don't have to be refrigerated. We also provide backpack type meals ready to eat for those at the hospital who are either discharging with a positive COVID case or awaiting their test results, so that they didn't have to, you know, go to the grocery store and pick up food to get them through the 24 to 48 hours until they receive their test back. And then there's also information in those boxes that say, you know, hey, if you need assistance with rent or utilities or mortgage assistance or whatever it may be, that list of resources was provided or is provided in those boxes as well. And I would say I think we've given well over 100 of the boxes out to the hospital, and we average about 15 a week that we're distributing through the hospital.
Fantastic. That's really great information. Thank you. Just one last question here. Curious, throughout this process, was there anything that surprised you about this work? Anything that unexpected? There's so many unusual things happening right now with COVID and all the social distancing, and just trying to do any kind of food distribution is challenging. But anything that surprised you as you were doing this project?
I don't know that anything surprised me, but at the same time, it was pleasant to have an affirmation of the generosity of people, their time, their resources. We used a sign-up software program and put the word out. We needed help on these certain days, and we just had people signing up to help immediately and more than once. They wanted to be a part of it. And also, you know, when we reached out to say, hey, could we possibly borrow your semi-tractor trailer at your trunking company and a driver to come and help load these pallets and deliver them to these 2 different destination points? It wasn't that it was there was much arm twisting involved. In fact, what I was told was, of course, and thank you for thinking of us. You know, that doesn't always happen when you reach out and ask for help or for a service for free. And that was 100% of the time the reaction that we got. So I can't say I'm surprised, because that's how our community is. But I think for a lot of people, that experience would be surprising.
Yeah, I agree with Melissa. There wasn't anything that really was surprising. We have a very strong community and a very strong collaborative community. And so it just kind of felt like this is what we do when there's a crisis, when there's you know, a need. We come together as a community and we figure out a way to solve the need, and we just get it done.
Maybe the only surprise was, and it shouldn't have been given the time of year, but we did have a bit of a snowstorm in the midst of our packaging, and schools were canceled. And Melissa and I spoke and said, should we go forward? And we decided we will. And now all of our volunteer groups showed up, even teachers included, to help assist in this project on a day that many area businesses and schools were closed due to the weather. And so I think the surprise is just that continuing forward through plenty of challenges and barriers was definitely the task, and it was impressive to see it unfold. Yeah, I agree. I don't know about surprising, but resiliency and persistent is certainly something that the community continues to demonstrate.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate you taking the time. It was great to chat with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Good pauses in between things. So good and ripe for editing. I'll turn my video back on. I think we're good. This was really, really great. I think I'll probably come up. Oh, do you guys have any photos of distribution sites or, you know, assembly, like any photos you can send? I love being able, like our video editor can plug those in, and, you know, when the dogs open up, maybe when we show a photo. Although everybody knows dogs, so we might keep it in there.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that. We have pictures that would be perfect illustrations of different things we were talking about, like the semi truck that was donated and our volunteers physically loading and assembling and everything. So I'd be happy to send a bunch over to you if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Would it be to you, Vanessa? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I will do that.
Okie dokie. And if you all don't mind, I think if you reply to some email, my email address is probably on there. Again, just first and last name, your title and your organization, and we'll put a little intro video up. I was kind of thinking about like how to intro like the project, and I was thinking of just calling it like you know, Fremont COVID response plus, really, like, and beyond, because I mean, I love, it's not just about the backpack program. Like, I loved hearing about how you guys are taking this experience and using it for the hospital, you know, stuff. And yeah, so.
I like that title.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again.